Hello, and welcome to part 3 of the Gamer of Destiny SlimBits series. I don't really have a heck of a lot to say about this episode, so I thought I'd just watch alongside and maybe jump in here or there when I have maybe something important to chime in with. These previously on segmented things that I included at the start of the individual episodes for Gamer of Destiny were a real pain to get behind, because I had to cherry pick choice lines of dialogue from earlier episodes to sort of catch people up, but I had to do it in a way that it made it concise and it got enough information across and still made the old episodes look interesting, but catch people up for the stuff that's to come, and most notably the stuff that was relevant to the upcoming episode. This was really not much of a problem, or even a thought in my mind when I was writing the full script, because Gamer of Destiny was always meant to be sort of one full movie. But segmenting into different episodes, I guess, was a way for me to stay sane about it and to prove to people that I'm not just crazy making my little cartoon here, some Howard Hughes type shut off from society. I was actually being productive and I was putting stuff out there. So, the people of Flower Star here, they are a representation of the more animal mascot platforming game aspect of video games that were very prevalent in the 90s, and I suppose like it's continued into the 2000s, but it's certainly not as popular as it was in the 90s, where there would be a dozen cartoon animal mascots with attitude and. Anyways, I just figured there was enough of them that I could have an entire section of the Gamer of Destiny world. Sorry, of Playsylvania. Man, it's been a while since I've actually watched this series. There was a subset of animal hybrid people cut off from the more human characters, living on their own in isolation and quiet harmony, just working away. But yeah, that's kind of why they're sort of a mixture of everything from like Animal Crossing and Bubsy Bobcat and Crash Bandicoot, Sonic the Hedgehog, and I don't know, Arrow the Acrobat. Just there was such a wealth of those kind of characters around at the time that it probably would have been foolish of me to just completely ignore it. So Shiggy, the leader of the fungi people here, he was originally, or I had originally asked my friend Colin to voice him, because he had done some voice work for me in the past. But at the time that I was doing the recording session, Colin was getting married, so his availability was just not possible. So. I didn't want to recast the role because Colin really did have a distinct voice, and he had helped me out in my past animated projects, and I wanted to honor the kind of working tradition that we had together. But without having access to him, I didn't have a voice for Shiggy, who, by the way, is named after the nickname for famed video game designer Shigeru Miyamoto. So what I did was I just took audio clips of past performances that Colin did and reversed them, warped them, and chopped them up into this weird sort of gibberish, and then I would give him subtitles. And that was a direct homage to the Banjo-Kazooie games, which were very dialogue-heavy and yet featured no voice acting. It was all done through characters just having little subtitles with little icons with their faces next to them, like reading out the text. That was their dialogue, and they would all have like very personable sounding sound bites for voices, like and I thought, like, if there was going to be a use of subtitles in Gamer of Destiny, oh man, I kind of regret doing that QuickTime event button there. But if there was ever a use for or need for subtitles in the Playsylvania world, they would most definitely be done through the Banjo-Kazooie methods. So yeah, we just saw him clear out a very Super Mario Bros. 3 inspired refinery there of all the Pokemon inspired monsters. I think I touched on it before in an earlier episode, but all the wild animals, all the vicious beasts that you'll see in the Playsylvania world are all based on Pokemon. And these sort of human animal characters, they're the people of Flower Star. They are different than those wild Pokemon-inspired animals. Okay, so here we see the first hints of the budding romance between Mia and Rob. And I wanted to write it as a young romance, where even though Rob and Mia are, they're literally from two different worlds. They are both in a very similar spot emotionally. They are both feeling a sense of shame. Mia is feeling it because of the way that she reacted to the crises for her people, which is generally frowned upon by the people of Playsylvania here. And Rob is feeling ashamed of his inability to relate to people outside of video games. And so now they've met each other, and they both think that the other person is just fantastic. And when you're a young person, having someone feel that way about you, I remember feelings like that. You just feel like you're on top of the world. So that was the kind of relationship I wanted to sort of foster, like a very, teenagers who feel vulnerable but found each other and can find strength in the other's company. I think a lot of people have had similar experiences to that, and I know there's been a dozen like young adult romance and young adult sci-fi fantasy written about it, and I guess I wanted to give put my stamp on that. In my mind, I wanted to tell a very sweet story, because I had just gotten through reading the first couple of books of Scott Pilgrim, and then seeing the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World movie, and it really did inspire me to a degree in making Gamer of Destiny, because it was this love letter to comic books and old-school arcade games, video games, and kung fu movies. But at the end of it all, it was a very grounded and mature story about an immature person who needed to grow up. And that was the kind of story I wanted to tell with Game of Destiny, because this very well could have just been a movie about video game references and jokes that only gamers would get. But if this movie, which I had already committed myself to making as sort of like the biggest project I ever took on, if it was going to stand out from the pack, I should try to give it a little bit of emotional weight to it. And I figured a young coming-of-age, budding romance story set in a fantasy world was the kind of story that I thought Gamer of Destiny would do well with. Okay, so Gilbert's eventual betrayal here. Gilbert and Rob's relationship was sort of... Oh, actually, before I jump into that, I wanted to bring up the nurses here who were inspired by the nurses from Silent Hill. They are one of the few horror game references in Gamer of Destiny, and I really wish I had done more. I was sort of late to the party when it came to those psychological horror games, like, Silent Hill is the only one that comes to mind right now, but there were a lot of those. And at the time, the only horror games that stuck out for me were the Resident Evil series. And one of my regrets with the series is not delving a little bit deeper into those genres, because there is certainly a lot of potential, both thematically and in character design. And considering that I have an entire faction of horror game people in Gamer of Destiny, I just wish I had done a little bit more. That waterfall was such a pain and a thrill to conceptualize and then realize. Okay, so Gilbert's betrayal here. So I think I mentioned earlier before that I don't play very many video games as much as I used to. I gravitate more to single-player experiences and single-player games like Legend of Zelda, Prince of Persia, and BioShock, those kind of games. My friends are very into competitive games like Overwatch now, and TF2 back in the day, and certainly Street Fighter. And I just can't get into those games because I cannot I need to learn at my own pace, and multiplayer games are kind of just thrown right into the fire of it. Gilbert, I think, represents someone who's gotten a little too wrapped up in that sort of aspect of gaming, who's gotten so used to being the best in online competition and online matches that actually prefers it this way. That was not sort of a statement on the people who do play competitive games, but I thought it was an interesting contrast to have against someone like Rob, who does long for something more, but sees no value in his own gaming. Gilbert sees nothing but value in his gaming, and he wants nothing else in the world. Nothing else except to keep proving to himself and to others that he really is the best. Yeah, those two are really just nothing but contrast. Gilbert is taller than Rob, and he's also a heavier set kind of guy. I think Rob's original design, I think Gilbert was an early prototype, an early concept for... I redesigned Rob to be sort of a sleeker kind of character because I thought it would just be a little bit more believable when you see Rob doing the kind of action-oriented stuff that he's doing, like running and flipping. Even though this is a world where what you can do in video games in our world, you can do for real in this world, I just thought there would be just a little bit more of a degree of believability if Rob looked like he could have been physically capable of doing that stuff to begin with. Whereas Gilbert is a guy who just doesn't care about his physical appearance. Hence the whole neck beard and the shaggier hair and the and the awful weird shirt that he has. Okay, so this action scene, loosely inspired by falling Tetris blocks to illustrate deployed troops coming to invade the base here. This was one of the big action scenes that I had brainstormed early in the development stage, and that's why I think I kind of went a little bit overboard with the camera movement and the cinematography, because it had just been in my mind for so long that I could not wait to storyboard it. In hindsight, the lasers are kind of all over the place, but compared to everything else that's happened in the episodes or in the series or in the movie before then, I think it is a marked improvement to some of the other action scenes. It is. That's a little reference to the intro to Street Fighter 2, the sort of two punches that Cliff gives there. This scene was such a ball to animate, real pain in the ass, but look what's happening here. Like, the good guy base is swamped. They are completely decimated by the bad guys. Shiggy, the guy who we've been told is like a very important figure for the last two episodes, is captured willy-nilly. Rob loses Mia, his only friend that he's met in this area, and now he's just driven himself off a cliff, completely helpless. If that's not an act break, then I don't know what is. That is pretty much everything I have to say on this episode. It was really the turning point for the rest of the series, episode 3. It's episode 3 in terms of when I released them, but this is really when sort of the movie itself would hit its stride, where the stakes have been raised a little bit, and it's certainly the best act break that I could have made. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I will send out another video another time. Bye!